So good evening and welcome everyone. And yeah, thanks for gathering this evening. And really I'm just gonna explain to you what wise wintering is, what the course is about, and why it came about. And then at the end there'll just be an opportunity for any questions that people have, really. Um, so I think I said in the email that many years ago, I really hated going into the winter. It was the worst possible time for me. I would just feel so low, and it seemed to just stretch on and on and on and on, and um, and it was it must have been, I don't know, it could have been 20 years ago now. Time's got a kind of elastic quality as you get older. I mean, I don't know how long ago it was, but whatever time I discovered the Celtic Wheel of the Year and the breaking down of the year into 8 festivals. And suddenly, so instead of just having winter and spring and summer and autumn, now there is a very clear definition. There's 8 spokes on the wheel instead of just 4. And that made such a huge difference to me because you're no longer waiting for long chunks of time, waiting for the spring to come. It's winter, we're waiting for the spring. Now it's like we go into winter at Halloween, at Samhain, and then we have about 7 weeks until the light comes back. How miraculous is that? That the winter solstice comes and it brings that wonderful return of the light. And we know it's going to be still going to be dark, and we know it's still going to be cold, but there's something about that quality where even for a minute a day, and then it was into spring, and that was only another 7 or 8 weeks later. And so suddenly it was like, oh, I can do this. I can do this. These are short periods of time, and there's a celebration and a reason for understanding myself as part of nature. And that was really the biggest thing for me, was seeing myself as part of nature. So whereas before I would look out and I'd see the trees, and I could see the beauty in nature, but I didn't really at that point appreciate exactly what the lessons were that nature was teaching us. And as far as I'm concerned, nature is our greatest teacher and our greatest healer. So suddenly to be in a position where everything, I was like a newborn, I was seeing through new eyes, looking out at when the autumn came and recognizing, that we too are shedding things now. We're shedding things, our energy is starting to go in. So we're no longer the outward expression, which we are through the late spring and summer and into autumn. But in the winter, we go down. Our energy comes down in the same way that the trees do, the same way the earth just draws it in the northern hemisphere. And that suddenly felt like, oh my goodness, but how do I do that at this busy time of year? How can we put ourselves into that position of stillness when the world is so crazy, when Christmas is coming, when there are so many parties and invitations and it feels like things to do, and especially if you've got children, mine are grown up now, so that's okay. But it became even more important to find those moments of stillness in between the madness, and to really start appreciating and being very mindful of the lessons that I was being taught by nature, by the earth. And recognizing too in those times when it's just like, oh, this is all very well. This is all very well, but it's still dark. It's still cold, and I still feel miserable, actually. And it's like, well, go outside. Go outside. Make yourself go outside. Like kids do. That was a lot of the time how I felt. And I knew that if I did go outside, and when I did go outside, that suddenly, if you look close enough, you can see the hope. You can see already now, we can see the catkins coming on the hazel. It's like miraculous. I saw something very strange the other day. I saw a cow slip. That's not natural, not in November. So that was an omen of, oh my goodness, rather than a spring. But yeah, and the sticky buds on the trees, and so even though nature is gone and there is stillness, there is still signs of life there. And so that really helped me to understand and to be able to laugh at myself, at my absolute despair, at my inability to deal with this darkness. And and that was it really. That was my journey into the Celtic Wheel of the Year. And to this point today, where it feels so, so important to actually breathe. This feels like the space between. This is like Earth's space between the in-breath and the out-breath that we are in. There's a kind of liminal space that if we have time and if we can allow ourselves and if we, because the allowing is really, really important. And I hadn't realized that. It's kind of, you can't go into the darkness of winter kicking and screaming. It has to be done from a place of allowing because we are cyclical beings and we because of the systems that we live under, there are we have a problem with death. We don't like to talk about it very much, and so, but as a concept of part of the cycle of our lives, it's really, really important. And not as a concept of where we die personally, but as life, whether it's our ideas, our projects, nature, that whole cycle of life, death, and rebirth is ever onwards. It's just spiraling round and round and round. And winter is a death. We see it outside and we know it inside. It's the only season when we can see all the other seasons and feel them from this point of view. From winter we can look backwards over the autumn and the summer with our memories of all that meant, and to the spring. And we can look forwards to the spring and the summer. We don't usually think about winter when we're in the middle of summer, do we? We don't bring ourselves to that. Oh, yes, yeah, I think I'll have a little thought about winter here. It doesn't happen. So winter just offers us a great opportunity to, when we stop, to open up our other eye, to our inner eye, our inner seeing eye, to really reflect back on the year that has just gone before us, and not to go forwards yet. And that's really, really important. I never ever make resolutions. I think that's such a terrible, terrible thing to do, because winter is this first part of winter. And if you've looked at the outline for this course, the first part of winter is about us accepting and allowing and surrendering ourselves to go into this place and what it means. So overcoming our fear of the darkness, or whatever that means to us, and actually being able to be in a place where we cannot see, because we cannot see in the dark. But what that allows us to do is to really, really feel and to reflect on where we have been and where we are now. So the first weeks of this course, leading up to the solstice, which is the fourth week, are very much about us, first of all, standing on the edge of darkness, looking at what that means to us. How do we feel at this point? You know, and what do we want to bring with us? If you imagine you've got some suitcases with you, some bags, and what are you actually in those bags? What do you want to bring into the winter with you? So it's kind of sorting stuff out and doing some releasing of things before we actually step into the darkness. And to recognize the that this is a time of rest. And it doesn't mean, if we're working or whatever, we can't rest, but making key points in your day to rest. One of the things I love doing when we did this before is, if you're around when the sun is going down, to actually don't turn an electric light on. If you can, just allow that light to go until you are in the dark, and let the first light that you light be a candle. And there's something really interesting that happens at that. And hopefully, if you come on the course, then that's one of the things that we will do, because it changes you in that sense. It's such a simple thing to do. And then we're going to cross over the threshold into the darkness. And a threshold is something that holds something in place. So the caterpillar goes into the chrysalis. So really, we're going into the chrysalis of winter, and we are shedding that skin, going into that chrysalis and allowing ourselves to just break down into the mush, into whatever that might be. So through a series of ceremony and rituals, and sharing, we will get an opportunity to share every week on specific things. So they're questions, and I'll be sending you a PDF every week, which has journaling prompts in it, ideas for ceremonies, things to be looking out for outside, things that you might want to make for yourself, or just ideas and things like that. And there'll be a group as well. I'm not quite sure yet. It depends. That will depend on who's on the journey. But all of these things, so that they're throughout the week, you get an opportunity to just think about these questions, so that when we come together, there's a sharing about stuff that may have come up related to these questions. Yeah, so going into that chrysalis, exploring what it means to surrender, exploring what it means to release, exploring who you are at this moment in time, in this now moment. Who are you as you are changing? Because it's a time of change and transformation, but it's and underneath, I love it, underneath the earth out there, we all know, Mother Nature, with her big blanket of soil there, she's got all sorts of little things. There's things that are hibernating, there's seeds that maybe are starting to germinate, there's all of this. So life never really stops. It's just change all the time, constant change and transformation. And that's where we will be, in that chrysalis of transformation, a recognition of who you are, who you have been, who you are now, and a bit later, who you are becoming. So, yeah, and there's more release, because stuff comes up, doesn't it? We're kind of getting out. It's a bit like Inanna. If you've heard of Inanna's tale, she has to go down through 7 gates to go down to the depths of the underworld, and each gate she's stripping off something, so her crown, her jewelry, her clothes, until she's naked when she gets down there. And we won't be doing that, so to speak, but we will do some of that within that chrysalis, in however you want to do. And then, because the releasing, if you release something, it means that you make space, and that's what we want. We don't want to be carrying any old baggage with us, and we want to be getting rid of things that some things just come up and you just think it's time. And I think especially because we're older women, which is the plan, is that you recognize these things, that maybe they're things that keep coming up and you just say, oh, I've had enough, let's get rid of that. Journal it. We'll do some ceremonies, some rituals, and maybe it'll help. It's not going to be a heal all, but sometimes these things, if they're done with intention and they become a practice, really, really can transform. And when you're witnessed as well, and that's the beauty of this, why this is a journey of women traveling together, because we go into this together, so there's a sharing, there's a holding. And that for me is really important, having worked with women's circles for a long, long time now. That thing, that creating a really safe space, a safe which is a confidential space, a space where everybody can be witnessed and heard. Nobody's trying to solve any problems for you or coming up with, trying to fix you or anything else. It's just a real space of deep honoring, and knowing that you hold and you are held, you are heard, and you hear others. You can speak your truth and you can listen to others speaking their truth. And that's really, really important to me. So our virtual circle is one of trust, based on trust, and a desire to spend time together. So yeah, so we get to the solstice, and then ta-da, the light returns, and that wonderful energy, that beginning of the magic, of starting to shine the light into the corners, into the darkness. So the darkness kind of, you can feel the darkness starting to move back and make space, and then you can breathe into it. And now it's the dreaming time. Still, there is no resolutions. There is no, yes, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. It's just breathe and dream, because now there is space to dream. And that is so, so important, because this is one of them is called Opening to the Possibility of Now. And it's a real opportunity to see what comes up, what is alive in you now. And maybe there'll be some surprising things there, and being able to just see a way where you're not making plans, you're just dreaming. And when we dream, and this will be done through meditation and visualizations, um, because they're so key. I do love a visualization. And those are key to just allowing, just to be able to, like a good story, that you maybe don't know, that your soul is telling you. It's like your soul is telling you a story, and you're just being able to follow along on this possibility that of these things to come, so that it can be a really a real opening of possibility and potential. And then from that, when you start to feel those things, then you start thinking about the seeds, the seeds that you have harvested from last year, that you really want to, plant again. And also just about, it's really important to think about how you're going to nurture yourself, because you are the seed, the ultimate seed, aren't you? You are your own Mother Earth, and all of these things will come through you. So it's about how much love, how much care you can put into yourself, and how you do that, how you take time. I think as women, we've often been made to believe that self-care, time for us, is selfish. And I love that adage. When I first heard it, the adage of the everybody will have heard it, the oxygen, taking the oxygen first because you're of no use if you to anybody else unless you've got that. And it just rings true. We have to look after ourselves if we are going to be of service to anybody or to this planet. And the truth is that we're desperately needed as older wise women at this time. So hopefully over the coming weeks as well, it's a case of really recognizing your wisdom. This is the time of the crone. This is the time of the wise woman. And in order to kind of mine your wisdom, then it's necessary to go to a still point. And the solstice is the still point. So leading in the darkness to that still point, and then when the light comes in, being able to go out the other side. It's just, oh, it's so yummy. It's such a yummy time it can be. So, and the final one is the dreaming, which is what I've just said, but really honoring that and saying, yes, this is it. This is dreaming into the awakening year. And I always do a live one in a beautiful hall down by the river near me here. And it gets longer each year. I think it's going to be 6 hours long this year. And we have lovely lunch and do some crafts, but we do this dreaming into the year, and that's going to be a version of that. The final one will be about being in ceremony and doing all of those things, setting our intentions, and yeah. So that is, I think, an overview of the course. It's going to be 8 weeks all the way through to the end of January, apart from that gap between the solstice and the New Year, Christmas and New Year. So we'll have 4 weeks and then 4 weeks together. Yeah, it's going to be great. So I hope that some of you here tonight will sign up for it, and others that see this video as well will hopefully be interested. So for those that are watching this now, please get in touch if you would like to know more. And I'm going to stop this now. So bright winter blessings to everyone.